All right, so we're diving into Unified Threat Management Systems,
UTMs.
UTMs, yeah.
Right.
And we got a ton of info on this,
Yeah.
but it sounds like you want to go deeper than just what it is, right? You want to know how it all works?
Absolutely. And how these systems are changing is fascinating. It's not just about like keeping the bad guys out anymore. They're becoming more like
Intelligent.
intelligent. Yeah.
Yeah, like a whole security team right in your system.
Right. That's a great way to put it.
So let's start with something everybody knows, even if they don't know how it works.
Yeah.
Firewalls.
Oh.
The first line of defense, like the bouncer at the door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And what's interesting is how they've changed. I mean, way back when they were simple, not on the list, no entry, but now they're way more complex, always analyzing, looking for anything suspicious.
Mm. So not just blocking bad guys, but recognizing bad behavior too.
Exactly, like a bouncer who can spot a fake ID and also sense when someone's up to no good, even with the right credentials.
That's a good one. So this makes me think about all the breaches we hear about. Hackers getting through, supposedly secure systems. Is that where intrusion detection and prevention come in?
Yeah, definitely. So intrusion detection, IDS, think of it like security cameras everywhere, watching for trouble.
Okay, so IDS is like the eyes, always watching.
Exactly. Then you've got intrusion prevention, IPS. That's the rapid response. If IDS sees something, IPS jumps in, blocks it, like a guard stopping a sneak in.
So it's active, not just an alarm.
Right. And super fast, milliseconds. Often it's stopped before you even realize anything's happening.
Wow, that's wild, like predicting trouble
That's the goal.
before it even happens.
Yeah, and that's why IDS and IPS working together is so important. One sees, the other acts.
Makes sense. Now, what about anti-malware? Is that part of the firewall or something separate?
Separate, but works closely with it. Think of it as the specialist dealing with those nasty little digital bugs.
Exterminator, keeping the system clean.
Precisely. And like a good exterminator, it's not just reactive, it's proactive too. That's where sandboxing comes in.
Sandboxing, I've heard of it, but not sure I get it.
So imagine an email, right? Attachment you're not sure about. Instead of opening it right there on your computer, you open it in a safe space first. Virtual, isolated. That's basically sandboxing.
Like a test chamber, see if it explodes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
UTM analyzes the suspicious files in a controlled environment before they can do any harm.
So it's not just blocking known malware, but anticipating new threats too, right?
Yeah, that's one of the advantages of a UTM. Always learning, adapting as the threats change.
Clever. Okay, so we've got the firewall, the intrusion detection and prevention, the anti-malware, all working to protect from outside, right?
Yeah.
But what about inside? Is that where data loss prevention comes in?
You got it. Data loss prevention, DLP, all about protecting your info, even from, your own people.
Sounds intense. Is it like monitoring everything, emails, files, all that?
It can be that detailed, yeah. But it's not about spying. It's about protecting that valuable data. Think, an employee accidentally sends a client list to their personal email.
Oh.
Or tries to upload financials to some random cloud. DLP can catch that, block it, prevent the leak before it happens.
Like a safety net, even if someone messes up.
Yeah. And the cool thing is, these DLP systems are getting really good. Analyzing content, understanding context, even finding sensitive info based on patterns, keywords.
It's like a security guard who can read minds.
Ha ha ha. Well, maybe not mind reading, but getting there.
So important these days, though, right? Those data breaches can really hurt.
Oh, absolutely. Financially and reputationally.
Big time. Okay, so UTMs are covering a lot of ground, it seems. Application control, that's another thing in our notes. What's that all about?
This is where we get even more specific. Application control lets you choose exactly which apps are allowed, even when they can be used.
Oh, so you could, like, block social media during work hours.
Yeah, or stop people from installing risky software.
Makes sense, like IT saying, networks for work stuff only.
Haha. Yeah, you could say that.
No cat videos on company time.
But really, it's about balance, right? Productivity and security. Controlling what apps are used minimizes risk, stops people from accidentally bringing in malware or other threats.
Yeah, huge for industries where data is super sensitive, like healthcare, finance.
Absolutely. Consequences there can be massive.
Speaking of connecting to outside networks, VPNs. I know they're for secure remote access, but how do they fit into the UTM picture?
VPNs, crucial part of many UTMs, especially with so many working remotely these days. Think of it like a secure tunnel for those remote users.
So it's like extending the security perimeter, right? To cover them even when they're not in the office.
Exactly. Instead of their traffic going straight to the internet, it goes through the UTM first. Scanned, filtered, protected, just like anyone on the network.
Reassuring, especially now with everyone working from everywhere.
Definitely. UTMs are evolving to match how we work now.
It seems like it. So we've gone through all the pieces, but I think it's worth stepping back. Why choose a UTM in the first place? What makes it so appealing?
Good point. We talked features, but what's the big picture advantage?
Yeah, why all this in one system?
Well, one biggie is centralized management. Imagine trying to handle all this separately. Firewall from one company, anti-malware from another, and so on.
Yeah, sounds like a headache.
Total nightmare, especially for smaller businesses without a dedicated IT team.
Right, they've got enough to do.
UTM, it's all controlled from one place. Dashboard, monitor everything, set policies, get reports, handle alerts. Way simpler.
Saves time, probably money too, right?
Absolutely. And that's another benefit. Cost effectiveness. UTMs are usually more affordable than buying everything piecemeal.
Like a bulk discount on security.
Haha, exactly. And there's something else, often overlooked. Synergy. Because everything's together, they work better than alone. Sharing info, connecting data, reacting faster to threats.
Not just having the tools, but how they work as a team.
Right. Exactly. That's the real power of a UTM. A layered defense, stronger together.
Okay, starting to get a much clearer picture now. How it all works, why it's becoming so popular.
Yeah.
But before we get carried away with the good stuff, what about the downsides? Nothing's perfect.
True. And there are some drawbacks to think about. One is the single point of failure issue.
Oh, that sounds ominous. What's that mean?
Basically, all your security is in one system. If that system goes down, you lose everything all at once. All your eggs in one basket, so to speak.
So UTM crashes, whole network's exposed.
That's the risk. But it can be managed with some planning.
Like how?
Well, one way is redundancy, having a backup UTM ready to go if the main one fails.
Like a spare tire?
Precisely. Be prepared. And there are other things to minimize downtime, like failover systems that automatically switch to a backup connection if the main one goes down.
Sounds crucial. Anything else to watch out for?
Scalability can be a concern, especially for larger organizations. As the network grows, a hardware UTM might struggle to keep up.
So what do you do then?
Cloud-based UTMs, they can handle growth much better, more flexible with features and pricing, too.
Good to know. Sounds like they're always evolving to match what businesses need.
They are, and we're just scratching the surface here. There's so much more to explore.
Yeah, definitely feels like it.
But let's take a step back for a second. Think about why someone would choose a UTM. What are the benefits that make this approach so appealing?
Good point. We talked about all the features, but what's the big picture advantage of having all these tools together in one system?
Well, one of the most compelling benefits is centralized management. Imagine trying to manage all these security functions separately. You'd have a firewall from one vendor, an anti-malware solution from another, and so on. It would be a logistical nightmare.
Yeah, I can see how that would quickly become overwhelming, especially for smaller businesses that might not have dedicated IT staff.
Exactly. With a UTM, everything is controlled from a single dashboard. You can monitor all your security functions from one place, configure policies, generate reports, and respond to alerts. It simplifies things immensely.
That's a huge time saver and probably a cost saver too.
Absolutely. And that brings us to another key benefit, cost effectiveness. Typically, a UTM system is more affordable than buying all these security features separately. You're essentially getting a bundled package and often get volume discounts.
So it's like getting a bulk discount on your security, which is never a bad thing.
Right. And there's another advantage that's often overlooked, synergy. Because all the features are integrated into one system, they can work together more effectively than standalone solutions. They can share information, correlate data, and respond to threats in a coordinated way.
So it's not just about having all the tools, it's about how those tools interact and support each other.
Exactly. And that's where the true power of a UCM lies. It's about creating a layered defense that's greater than the sum of its parts.
Okay, we're starting to get a much clearer picture of how UTMs work and why they're becoming so popular. But before we get too carried away with all the positives, let's take a moment to address the potential downsides. No system is perfect, right?
That's very true. And there are a few potential drawbacks to consider when evaluating ETMs. One concern is what we call the single point of failure issue.
Okay, that sounds a little ominous. What does that mean exactly?
Well, because all your security functions are integrated into a single system, if that system goes down, you lose all your defenses at once. It's like having all your eggs in one basket.
So if the UTM crashes, your entire network is essentially unprotected.
That's the risk. But it's important to remember that this risk can be mitigated with proper planning.
So what are some strategies for addressing that single point of failure issue?
One common approach is to implement redundancy. That means having a backup UTM system ready to take over if the primary system fails.
So it's like having a spare tire in your car just in case you get a flat.
Exactly. It's about being prepared for the worst case scenario. And there are other strategies for minimizing downtime, such as implementing failover systems that automatically switch to a backup network connection if the primary connection goes down.
Those sound like crucial considerations. Are there any other potential drawbacks we should be aware of?
Scalability can also be a concern, especially for larger organizations. As your network grows, a hardware-based UTM might struggle to keep up with the increased traffic and complexity.
So what's the solution there?
Cloud-based UTMs offer a way to address this challenge. They can scale much more easily than traditional hardware-based systems, and they often offer more flexibility in terms of features and pricing.
That's good to know. It sounds like UTMs are constantly evolving to meet the changing needs of businesses. But even with all these advancements, it's clear that UTMs are not a magic bullet.
That's right. They're a powerful tool in the security arsenal, but they're most effective when they're part of a holistic approach to cybersecurity.
So what does all this mean for you, our listener? Why should you care about UTMs?
Well, if you're responsible for the security of a network, whether it's for a small business or a large enterprise, a UTM can offer a streamlined and cost-effective way to protect your valuable data and systems from a wide range of threats.
It's like having a comprehensive security solution that can adapt to your specific needs and grow with your organization. But it's also clear that it's not just about the technology. It's about understanding how it fits into your overall security strategy.
Absolutely. And that's what we're going to explore further in the next part of our deep dive. We'll look at real-world examples of how organizations are using UTMs effectively and discuss some of the key considerations for choosing and implementing the right solution for your needs.
Sounds like a great way to build on what we've learned so far.
Yeah, fitting UTMs into your overall strategy, that's where the real value is. It's not meant to be a standalone solution, like having a high-tech security system at home, but leaving all the windows open.
Right. All the gadgets in the world won't help if you forget the basics.
Exactly. Same for network security. UTM's a great base, but you need other stuff too for a truly strong defense.
So what else can enhance a UTM?
One big one, often missed, is user training. You can have the best UTM out there, but if your employees are clicking phishing links or using weak passwords, it's all for nothing.
Like a state-of-the-art vault, but the door's unlocked.
Exactly. That's why security awareness training is so important. Got to teach people about the threats, how to spot suspicious emails, websites, all that. Make them feel responsible for protecting information.
Not just rules, but empowering them to make smart choices.
Right, yeah. Create a whole culture of security awareness. Everyone gets it. Everyone's vigilant.
Makes sense. So beyond the tech stuff, what else can companies do?
Regular security audits are key. Don't just set up your UTM and forget about it. Threats change constantly, so you got to review your settings, policies, all that. Test things to make sure they're working.
Like regular doctor checkups, even if you feel fine.
Exactly. Find those vulnerabilities before they're exploited. Keep your defenses up to date.
Makes sense. You mentioned real-world examples. How are UTMs being used well as part of a larger strategy?
Sure, take retail. Tons of customer data, credit cards, all that. Security's huge there. A retailer might use a UTM to block outside threats like malware or hackers, but they'll also use data loss prevention to protect customer info, plus strict access controls, so only the right people can see sensitive stuff.
Not just keeping bad guys out, but controlling info flow inside, too.
Exactly. Another example, finance. They're constantly targeted, so they need extra layers. On top of a strong UTM, you might see things like multi-factor authentication for logins, or intrusion detection specifically for financial malware.
Tailoring the defenses to each industry,
Yeah.
each company. Right?
Yeah, there's no one size fits all. But a UTM is a great starting point to build that comprehensive security strategy.
So all this talk about UTMs makes me wonder, where is this all heading? What's the future?
Great question. One trend is integrating UTMs with cloud security services.
Interesting.
Extending that protection to the cloud, right? Super important as more businesses move there.
So the UTM becomes like the central command for both on-site and cloud.
Exactly. We're also seeing AI and machine learning being used in UTMs.
Oh, wow.
Making them more proactive, identifying threats, responding faster.
So the future is smarter, more autonomous UTMs.
That's the direction. Analyzing tons of data, finding patterns humans might miss, neutralizing threats before they do any damage.
That's pretty exciting. It sounds like UTMs are going to be even more important going forward.
I think so. But even with all this cool tech, remember, cybersecurity is not just about ones and zeros, it's about people, too.
True. Easy to get caught up in the tech, but human behavior matters.
Right. And that brings us to something that often gets missed, the psychology of security.
Oh, interesting. Tell me more.
No matter how good your tech is, it's only as good as the people using it. If they're careless, fall for scams, ignore the rules, even the best UTM can't save them.
So, back to training and awareness.
Yes, but deeper than that, it's about understanding why people make security mistakes.
Okay.
Psychologists call them cognitive biases, mental shortcuts we all use, but they can make us do risky things when it comes to security.
Like trusting an email just because it looks official, even if it's a phishing attempt.
Exactly. Or using the same password for everything. Easy to remember, but creates big vulnerabilities.
Makes sense. So how do companies deal with these human quirks? Create a more security-aware culture?
Education's a good start. Make people aware of those biases. Teach them how to avoid traps. But it's gotta be more than just facts. Make it engaging, relate it to their lives.
Instead of lectures, give them real examples of what happens when passwords get leaked.
Right. Make it personal, relatable, use different techniques like interactive training, games, even storytelling.
Make security a part of the culture, not just a list of rules.
Exactly. And it's got to be ongoing. Keep reinforcing the message, keep up with new threats, keep the conversation going.
It's always evolving, just like the tech.
It is, and it needs everyone involved. IT, security folks, and the people using the tech.
Well, this has really opened my eyes about UTMs and the big picture of cybersecurity. We started with the tech, then the strategy, and now the human side of it all.
And it's all connected. Can't have one without the others.
So true. But before we wrap up, one more area I'd like to touch on is the role of UTMs in the future of work.
Ah, yes, that's a big one. As work changes, more remote, more devices, UTMs need to adapt to keep up.
So what are some of the challenges they'll need to address?
Mobile devices are a big one. People aren't just on desktops anymore, they're accessing data from everywhere. Smartphones, tablets, even watches.
This creates a much bigger target for those cybercriminals.
Absolutely. UTMs need to protect those devices without slowing people down or making it hard to work.
It's not just about blocking malware, it's about keeping things running smoothly no matter what device you're on.
Right. And then there's the cloud. More and more companies are moving their data and apps there, which brings a whole new set of risks.
Yeah, if your data is in the cloud, how can a UTM, which is usually on-site, protect it?
That's where cloud-based UTMs come in. They connect with cloud services like AWS or Azure to provide the same protection for cloud stuff as they do for on-premises systems.
Like extending the security bubble to the cloud.
Precisely. And as more companies go to the cloud, those cloud-based UTMs will be crucial.
What other trends will shape the future of UTMs?
Artificial intelligence and machine learning are changing the game. They could totally change how we detect and respond to threats.
I hear about AI and ML everywhere. How are they being used in cybersecurity?
One way is automating threat detection and response. Traditional UTMs use rules and signatures to find threats, but AI and ML can analyze huge amounts of data and spot patterns that humans miss. They can block even totally new threats.
Like super smart security guards that can learn and adapt on the fly.
That's a good way to put it. And as AI and ML keep advancing, we'll see even more sophisticated and independent UTMs in the future.
It sounds like UTMs have a bright future ahead of them. But even with all these advancements, it's clear that they're not a cure-all.
That's right. They're a powerful tool, but just one part of a complete cybersecurity strategy.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, what are the key things you want our listeners to take away?
First, UTMs are more than just firewalls. They're all-in-one security solutions to protect your network from all sorts of threats.
Second, don't just rely on the tech. User training, security checks, and a strong security culture are all essential for a truly secure environment.
And finally, stay informed about the latest threats and what's happening in cybersecurity. It's constantly changing, so you need to stay ahead of the curve.
Great points. Thanks for sharing your expertise with us. All right, so we're back and ready for, I think, the most interesting part of all this UTM stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the human element. We've
Yeah.
talked tech, we've talked strategy, but it's people making the choices, right?
Yeah.
That affect security in the end.
Absolutely. Tech can only do so much. It's us, our behavior, that really determines if a system is secure.
And that's what makes it fascinating. We're not always logical. We make mistakes, we cut corners. Sometimes we just want things to be easy, even if it's not safe.
Very true. And the bad guys, they know this. They use it, they manipulate, they play on emotions, they trick us into making those bad security decisions.
So it's not just about having the best tech. It's about understanding how we think, how we act, and how that impacts security.
Exactly. That's why that security awareness training is so important. Not just telling people don't do this, but helping them understand why it's bad, how to choose the right thing.
So like, instead of just saying, don't click links in weird emails, you'd explain how phishing works, what to look for, how to check if an email is legit before you do anything.
Exactly. Give them the knowledge to make good choices. And make the training fun, engaging, not just some lecture they'll ignore.
Right, make it real for them.
Yeah, you want people to feel like they're part of the solution, not the problem. It's about creating that culture of security.
And it's got to be ongoing, right? Not just a one-time thing.
Absolutely. Keep reminding them, keep them updated on new threats. Security is a conversation, not a lecture.
Always changing, just with
Yeah,
the technology itself.
it is. And it needs everyone on board, IT, security folks, and the everyday users.
This deep dive has been really insightful. We went from the nuts and bolts of UTMs to the bigger picture of cybersecurity, and now to this human element, which is probably the trickiest part of it all.
And they're all linked. You can't have one without the others.
So true. Well, that's about all the time we have for today. Big thanks to you for joining us on this journey into the world of UTMs. We hope you learned some stuff and maybe feel a little bit more confident, a little bit more aware of how to stay safe out there in the digital world.
Absolutely. It's a complex world, but understanding these things is the first step to staying ahead of the bad guys.
Well said. Stay curious, stay vigilant, and thanks for listening.